Hello and welcome to a We Women Want special. First of all, I want to wish all our viewers a very happy Women's Day. And in accordance with that, today we are going to be having a different kind of a show. We are going to be talking directly to the stakeholders, to the young women, the women whom India today and India tomorrow belongs to, and also for whom we are curating conversations such as these. So let's talk to them, let's find out what are their concerns, what are their views on the burning issues of the day. And predominantly, of course, this is a program where the women's voice is really heard, and we are emerging as a support group for women, and in order to celebrate that, to celebrate Women's Day, I have with me a panel of stakeholders. Joining me on the show are young women scholars from the Vedica Scholars Program for Women. The average age is really around 25 over here. So they are the women who are just going to be stepping out into the workforce. They have their concerns. They're the new age women. So I'm going to be talking to them. And helping me curate this conversation is Anuradha Das Mathur. She is the founder and dean for the Vedica Scholars Program. So welcome all of you, and a very happy Women's Day to all of you. I'm so glad you could join us. And Anuradha, you too. The conversation today, I know I don't want to give them pointers. I really want to see what are their concerns. But since, in this college, you are helping women to step out really into the work life, the professional, this thing. So issues like financial independence, the work-life balance, some data has come in that, post-COVID, the workforce that was affected the most was really the women, who had to give up their jobs to, go back home and look after their homes. They were also the first who were seen as the most expendable and asked to quit. So today, how do you see the position of women in the workforce?
First of all, thank you. It's very exciting for all of us from Vedica to be here, and a happy Women's Day. This program was curated to get more women into the workforce. And it's true, Priya, that there is data which says women have dropped out, things are worse for them. But you and I know that data says very often based on the question you ask it. And based on the work that we are doing and some surveys that we have ran, while there are lots of downsides to what COVID did to women, I think there are huge upsides, because many things that were considered women's issues have become mainstream work issues. Flexi hours, working from home. It's brought up the fact that enough women want to be important caregivers, and these ways of working would actually benefit them too. I think we did a big piece of work at Vedica Women's Alliance, which is a network of senior professional women. And we discovered that the advantages that have come from COVID, which is things like this, technology is enabling you to work from anywhere, remote work, flexi work. How do we hold on to those advantages? And at our college, with all of these young women, a lot of our conversations are moving from victimhood to feeling like an important asset in this country, in this economy. We are not a problem to solve for. We are actually a part of the solution. And I think that's really what we want our young girls to go into the world promising to be a part of the solution.
I think that's a very good point. In fact, it takes on to what the point that I wanted to make also is that you have women breaking through the glass ceiling. The percentage is not very much, but it's a beginning. In fact, someone said 35% of women in India hold managerial positions, which is a good number by itself also. But is this representation just for the sake of it cosmetic, or is it participatory? Are we actually making decisions that really matter? But I would really like to leave the floor open to all of you. You don't have to ask questions. You can bring forth points of view. It's an open discussion forum, really. So who wants to go first? Anybody who would like to speak on how important it is for a woman to be financially independent, and why?
So I wanted to comment on what you were saying about women achieving financial independence. And even though we have 25% of the women at the managerial top positions, I think it comes down to the mindset. So we women have to also liberate ourselves, because even though we are at this position, we ourselves have these limiting beliefs, and we do not feel that we have the right. So I think that's another important factor that we also have to, besides breaking the glass ceiling, we also have to break our own limiting beliefs.
Okay. Actually, Anuradha, there's, and I want to share with you, there are a lot of workplaces that are coming up which are all women workplaces. And there they say that we actually go to home on time. There's no pressure of doing overtime, trying to impress the boss. The boss herself puts down her pen at 7 o'clock or whatever the time is and goes home. Because I think, and she finds it a much more efficient ecosystem to belong to, because women are also, we know how to multitask at the end of the day. This whole concept that women don't know how to work hard, or they cannot hold positions because they're always running home. Actually, because we are running home and office, we actually know how to make better use of our time. I don't know.
I think, Priya, all of these actually play into stereotypes.
Bata.
Because we believe that women have to multitask. Women have to multitask because domestic chores are not handled or shared in equality by other people in a home. Now, if you had two sets of people multitasking, both would have to multitask less, right? So this thing about how women want to go back early, the truth is enough men want to go back early too. They don't have an option.
Correct.
And if women and men had a more equal way of living, both in the home space and at work, both would have these choices. So, I feel very hesitant to say that there is one way in which women are and there is one way in which men are. I think we have to create a world where both people have both choices. So for women to work late and not multitask should be as much an option as for a man to go home early and take care of domestic chores. So when we talk about equality and
it cuts the other way also.
Yeah, it cuts the other way. And we want to see a world where both have both sets of choices.
In fact, that's how many of you feel that this gender stereotyping can also work the other way? Should men also be, there should be no stereotyping if women will look after the home and men will bring in there is burden on the man also to bring in the paycheck. Should it be individual oriented, or are you happy with the stereotyping that's going on? I mean, it's worked for so long, so yeah. Individual. How many of you feel that it should be individual? Hands up. Oh, great. So I think nobody disagrees, or is there anybody who disagrees? So I think part of the problem, Anuradha, is that we are the stereotyping that has come down. If there is a man who's ready to be the house husband, I mean, full marks.
Yes, I'm going to give you a quick example. Last year, we did a quick survey amongst the Vedica girls. And it actually came out of a series that we were asked to write on the millennial girl.
Okay.
So what happens is, Priya, lots of my senior men colleagues in one of our other businesses will ask me, how should I deal with this, because they're dealing with a 25-year-old woman and the world has changed a lot. And I keep telling them, don't assume that as a 50-year-old woman, I can tell you how a 25-year-old woman thinks. I need to ask them without assuming as much as you need to. But we were doing this whole series on saying, what is it that these young women want? How do they think about stereotypes? How do they think about financial independence? How do they think about all kinds of things? In that context, we did a quick survey. So in a class of 100 students, I said, how many of you would be happy to marry a man? There's an assumption there about, heterosexual relationships. But how many of you would be willing to marry a man who didn't have a steady job or a steady income? Interestingly, roughly 100%, maybe 85-90% of the women raised their hands and said, you know what, we'd be quite happy. Now, I think there's a peer pressure to say, I'm cool and I'm happy to do that. So I asked the next question. I felt like it was an authentic answer because many of them said, but Anuradha, our families won't be okay with it. There will be a lot of pressure in our homes to not marry a guy who's not the equal, if not bigger and more important breadwinner. The second thing that they all said was that I'd be happy to marry somebody who didn't earn steadily, as long as there was complete clarity that I was the main breadwinner and I brought it. So I think security still matters, but they are willing to bring the security to themselves, not dependent on somebody else for that security. So I think that, but maybe we should ask this lot that question. Would they be happy to?
How many of you, the question that was asked in the survey, would be happy to marry a man who is not working, or who is not working, or who should be working and getting some income, or just not working at all? If the man is not working, he's doing the housework, how would your family and friends, would there be an issue? How would you be explaining that to them? Would you be unhappy about it? Would you be okay with it?
If I talk about my family, it it's like they were not happy totally. But if I explain them what's the reason and what he choose to do and what I choose to do, they must be happy.
Because our matrimonial ads still say that a boy with an MBA working at 5-figure salary or 8-figure or 10 and homely girl.
And homely girl.
Homely girl. So that, in fact, what would your matrimonial, would you guys go in for matrimonial ads? No. But how would you like to, describe yourself? If I asked you to describe yourself, you're sitting in front, you tell me.
Today's day and age, it's very important to give like the correct answers. But I'd say that I'm not a commodity. I wouldn't want to like put up an ad about myself on a
Very well said.
matrimonial site.
Well done. Well said. Nobody here would. I like that answer a lot. But in terms of describing yourself, what would you say on a resume or something in terms of your assets, your strong points?
Adaptable, I think.
Adaptable. I think women by and large are more adaptable than men. Is that another stereotyping?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to survive you have to adapt. But why don't we talk a little bit about what marriage means to any of you? You know, how important is it in your generation? How important is it? Do any of you have a date by which you want to be married? Like a age?
Yeah, good point.
Any of you? Yeah, go ahead, tell us.
So I'm Vidhi, I'm 27 actually, and in another 2 years I'm supposed to get married. And I'm not really sure because I feel there is this pressure on me, not by my parents, but I'm taking this pressure on myself. For example, if I don't get married before a certain age, I would not be having a family which I aspire to be with. And also I feel there would be, consciously, unconsciously, there would be a pressure to choose between my career and my family. So I feel there's still a pressure on that part.
The biological clock, right? That's the...
I mean, I would be adopting dogs, but that's not the case. But I do want to have a family, but I just feel the clock is ticking in that sense, like career-wise and choosing a partner.
This is a question we only ask the girls, not choosing between work or marriage, because unfortunately there is also the biological clock. Otherwise, I guess this debate should not be open.
Question to ask them. How many of you think you'll have to choose between work and marriage? Maybe are training them well.
Good. You're training them very well. So you all don't think there's a choice, work or marriage? We can have both. So there's no pressure. Do you all have an age by which you want to get married? Maybe because of biological reasons or pressure, society reasons? Well, my next question is going to be about the age of marriage. You've heard the debate recently, that the Supreme Court, should the age of men and women be at par? Right now it's 18, but they're saying the women's minimum age should also be raised to 21. How many of you feel that's a good point?
I don't feel that there's any need of an age. Like whenever anybody's ready, if I'm ready at 22, I feel I'm accomplished and I feel that I'm ready to start a family, I'm ready to take up responsibilities. One can get married at 22 as well. But even at 28 or 30, if someone is not ready mentally, then I don't think a compulsion of a biological clock or career pressure should force someone to get married. Marriage is a choice which we take by our are we ready mentally? Are we ready to accept responsibility? That should be the point where should we take the decision and not the biological clock. I think so.
No, but yeah, I get your point. But there is a problem,
she's making a separate point. That should there be an age before which you should not be allowed to get married?
Correct.
It's not about when you should get married. Is there an age before which nobody should get married? 18 is when you finish school. Should anybody get married at 18?
Should you raise your age to, is 19 okay or should it be 21? Because men is 21, 18-year-old boy is not allowed to get married. So why is a 18-year-old girl allowed to get married?
No, I don't think 18 is a good age. At least graduation, at least after graduation.
No, after graduation.
21.
Yeah.
21.
An age after graduation is fine.
21. So you want to raise the age, minimum age?
I think it should be 23 because I feel like we'll start learning about the world right after our graduation. So we should have a knowledge of the world, how world is around us. So I think it should be 23.
And also I think be financially independent.
Yeah.
Well said, Hello and welcome to a very special show of We Women Want. And of course, we want to wish you a very happy Women's Day. As we talk today, the conversation, we are going to turn the cameras around and this is talk to the stakeholders themselves and hear their views on what really the women of today want. We were discussing on this age of marriage, but I want to ask you another question. How many of you are okay to go in for an arranged marriage? You know, you said no matrimonial advertisements, good point. But arranged marriages is something that is a tradition that has been coming on, and you know there are pros and cons. But today, how many of you would want to go in for it? Nobody. Well done. So you want to find your own partners, and so that will your families be okay with it?
I think this.
Or
Yeah.
somebody.
If my parents or my family choose to choose someone, it's still I want some time to know that person. It's not ki he choose one day and I'm going to
married
marry
tomorrow.
next month.
I think that's the best way of both. You know,
Yeah,
finding a solution from both the.
Yeah, that you don't have to reject the medium, right? But the choice that you exercise on who you want to live with, how you want to spend your life, that choice you can retain. Because you know, some people work in an environment where they don't have access to meeting potential partners. So it's looking at it like help. Somebody else suggests somebody. I don't think, again, getting fixated on whether to marry or not to marry, whether to have an arranged marriage or find somebody. I think the more open-minded we are to everything in the world, the better, the more adaptive we can be and the better our chances of success. I think the important thing is to hold on to the fact that the choice is ours, right? And that, Priya, we don't tire of saying that the greater choice you can have on everything in your life, one of the fundamental ways in which you can be that person is if you're financially independent, at the very least. You know, we've talked about this once earlier, emotional, intellectual, and physical independence is also important, but everything becomes easier through financial independence. I mean, you know, women in the world deal with so much indignity because we have no
Financial
sort of control over our
finances.
But you know, our girls are exposed to so many different ways of thinking about stuff. I was wondering whether, you know, if you were to ask them, what are the, if you were asked 3 things that you would like in the world as you see it as young women, what would those 2-3 things be?
To change, or things that they
To change
are
or
happy about?
want, you know, they don't exist and you want those, or you want to change it. What would those top 3, 4, 5 things be?
Firstly, I want to be like every woman is like financially independent, and second, she has the power to take decision of her own life. She don't need to depend on someone or her parents to let me give some ideas or some opinions so that I can do. And the third one is I have the option to choose in life partner or to travel or to what kind of job I have to do. These are the main things I want to change in future.
Very nice.
So these are the choices that are important to you. What are the
For me, it would probably be just being able to take a walk at night alone without being worried about what's going to happen.
safety? Yeah.
So one of you wants to talk about the City of Women? Go ahead.
Mine would be to reduce the number of dropouts of the women in the mid-career. So that was basically my reason for coming Vedica too. Like I have been hearing it's very tough for women to work on the corporate sector. In my family, they have left the jobs because of that. So yeah, that would be the one.
Good.
Breaking the notion that boys can only be the sole earning member of the family and they are the only responsible person for taking care of your parents. I wanted to break the notion and if I see something in future, it would be like a girl can also take care of her parents. So
very nice.
Very good point. In fact, now I am seeing more and more women because, you know, they say that women, ladki parai ho jati hai, but the women are the ones who are looking after their parents. The boy gets just involved in his family and the girls are more.
So adding to Dhani's point, for me it's access to safe public toilets. Somehow there is like no talking about it, there is lack of it. Even like if I'm going to a park and I want to stay there for 2 hours, I cannot, because if I have to pee, suddenly I have to like see where I have to go, and also like that is also there.
Safe public toilets. That's I think I'm glad, and in fact this Prime Minister has been talking about it. At least he's bringing the focus onto something as important.
I mean, Sheila Dikshit began it in Delhi. It's just about started. You know, the park next to my house now certainly has them. But you know, also Priya, we've undertaken an initiative called the City of Women. It's a global project, but basically people imagine a city if it was sort of, if women were prominent. So it started with taking the metro map and saying if the women were acknowledged, what would that map look like? But in Delhi, because it's 20 years of the Delhi metro and the strong belief that mobility and progress have a lot to do with each other. Freedom is at the core. So safe spaces, public spaces are, so City of Women Delhi is an initiative which Vedica is working to celebrate 20 years of the Delhi metro.
I see.
And they go for midnight walks, for example. So 20 women went for a walk to India Gate at midnight. And we have a very interesting character called Mast Molly, who's like our mascot, who basically says, Chale. And so, you can go to a park, you can go to a liquor shop, you can go to India Gate at night, but it's really saying, I feel safe and I'd like to have you feel safe too. So more and more of us
are doing that. Okay. Yeah, come. Okay, how many of you are confident to go out and have a drink alone in the evening? One?
I think 2, 3. Come on, raise your hands properly.
How many of you?
So I just would like to expand on Radha's point. Yesterday only I was with a friend of mine and we went to a liquor shop, but in Vasant Vihar. So what happened was I was standing and I couldn't look up because all the men were there, and I couldn't look up because of the sheer gaze. And I realized one thing which was said in the City of Women, that loitering of women at night should be normalized. So because we go out for a purpose and not just to like sightseeing and all. So I feel that was a very nice initiative which City of Women took.
Oh, very good. No, but going out alone, now I see, early on it was a big thing if we went and saw a movie alone. But now I'm seeing at least women are moving out to have meals alone. How many of you have gone out alone for a meal or a coffee or a... Coffee and meal is good, huh? But drinks, we are still have to cross that line. Good. And the other question is being single. You're all in your mid-20s, you're professionals. You are definitely going to be moving into the work area if some of you are not already working. What does being single mean to you? Apart from financial independence, I'll take that as a given. What else? What do you enjoy doing most? You're 25, I assume financially okay, you are not dependent on anyone at least, you're not yet married. So this is the most free you will ever be, I think. So what?
So for me, it's the autonomy I have of my own life. I've lived with my parents for till I was 24, and I just recently moved out to Vedica hostel. And I'm really enjoying that I can go anywhere that I want. And even I have the option to work outside Delhi. And as a single person, I'm not dependent on anyone. I don't have to think about my responsibilities. And I can move anywhere in the world if I want to. So for me, that is the most biggest thing.
Freedom. So is that heady time of just being young and being free and being single. But what do you do that you wouldn't have done if you were living with your parents?
I wouldn't have gone out at night. That is definitely there.
So we'll tell your parents not to watch. You can.
Yeah.
What about lots of young people tell me that there is a lot of peer pressure to be in a relationship.
Good point.
Tell us about that. How do you balance this joy of being single and free with feeling like, am I missing out on a relationship, or does your generation not get tempted? Like, what's going on? Some of you should give us different opinions.
Yes, for me, all my cousins are getting married. I have a cousin who is my age, and she recently decided to get married. So there is this pressure from my family that you should and they are asking me, do you have a boy? Why aren't you not getting married? And that is there. The pressure is there to be in a relationship or to just get married. Especially when you're about 25 or nearing 25, I think the pressure is there. And when you see your friends also in relationships, sometimes being single can become lonely. So that pressure is there, I think.
Okay. Anybody else before we wrap up quickly? I can take 2 more points quickly.
Just to give you another angle, sometimes you see your friends and you see that they're in relationships, and then you're like, thank God I'm not in one.
Thank God I'm not. Anybody else? So that's a good, I think, note to end the conversation on. Thank you all for this conversation and for helping us get a little snapshot of the women of today. Very strong, independent, and they have an opinion, but yet, they're not losing their sense of self, which I really like. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Anuradha, for helping us.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
For more such videos, Subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.